This is Kim with Geauga Firearms Academy. Thanks for watching. Today we're going to continue on our new shooter series. I wanted to talk about ammo because it's one thing I get a lot of questions on, especially they just bought their gun and then they have to go buy ammo and they're looking and there's all these different types and things going on. So let's talk about that. The first thing you have to understand is caliber, and all that is just the diameter of the projectile. Caliber has nothing to do with the overall size of the cartridge, and they are not interchangeable. Why that's important is that some guns are made in different calibers. For example, my carry gun, the SIG P365 XL, is also made in .380, but mine is 9mm. How you know what caliber it is, you can find on the slide of the barrel, which I'll show you some examples now, and you can also find it in your user manual. Here you can see on my SIG, it says 9mm. Here on the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0, you can see big 9mm as well. Walther PDPF, we have big 9mm by 19. Glock, it says 9 by 19 here, and also on the slide here, it says 9 by 19. And for anybody that's curious, the 19 is the length of the case. Now we know how to figure out what caliber our handgun is. Let's talk about buying ammo. Here on the box, we have 9mm, as you can see on both of these. I brought two different examples. The next question I often get is about grain. So if you notice, this one here, it says 115 grain, and that one says 147. A common misconception is that the grains has to do with the propellant, and it does not. It has to do with the actual bullet weight, the projectile weight. When it comes to 9mm, the most common three categories you're gonna see is 115, 124, and 147. And typically for 9mm, the training rounds are gonna be 115 grains, and usually the self-defense or the hollow points, which we'll talk about in a moment, are gonna be 124. The next thing you need to know is the cases are typically made of three different materials. There's aluminum, brass, and steel. Personally, I like to stick with brass, and you also have to be careful with steel because a lot of ranges won't allow you to bring steel ammo. And the other issue with steel is sometimes they don't feed well in the magazine and they don't roll properly, so they're not gonna feed well. And if you're gonna keep a gun for protection, whether it's at home or to carry, I recommend having hollow points or self-defense rounds. Let's talk about the difference between the training rounds and the self-defense rounds. The training rounds, I want you to think of like a cannonball. They're gonna stick together and they're gonna keep on going through. The first one, we see the brass one, that is a training round, so you can see the shape of the actual bullet. And if we look to the next one, we have the self-defense round or the hollow point. And what they're designed to do is that when they hit flesh, they flower out and expand, as you can see here. If you haven't watched it, I actually made a video last Thanksgiving. We had a turkey in our freezer and we lost power, and I thought I got all the food out, but I missed one turkey. And unfortunately, it got all stinky and gross. What I decided to do was I took it outside, we defrosted it completely, and then we shot it with both the training ammo and with the hollow points, so you can see that, and that's where I actually got that bullet from. Two things about it. I highly recommend that you get at least one extra box and you feed it through to make sure it's gonna feed properly in your handgun. And number two, I recommend changing it out every year. This is my carry ammo or my home defense ammo, and when I pull it out, I need to know it's gonna work. And it also, especially my carry gun, it's going through all different temperature changes and, you know, being against my body and heat and all that sort of stuff. So I definitely recommend changing that out every year. Let's look at a few different examples of the self-defense rounds as well. The first thing you're going to notice when you go to buy it is the boxes are usually smaller. So they usually are 20 rounds or 25 at the most, and they're also a lot more expensive. Here we have the Hornady Custom. Each round is custom checked by hand for quality. The other one I have here is Federal HST, and one thing I want you to note is the plus P, so let's talk about that. Plus P means there's more pressure in the round, so you need to make sure that your handgun is rated for it. Personally, I find the rounds more snappy, and it's all about shot placement, and I want them to go where I intend to. I buy factory new because I don't know the quality of the round and how it's put together, and I don't want to put that into my gun to save just a few cents. I'm gonna trust big brands like Winchester or Blazer who have multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment that ensure quality, and not some guy in his basement with, you know, a $1,000 machine. And maybe he does do great quality work, but it's just not worth the risk for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, please share it, give me a like, a thumbs up, a comment. I always love to hear from you guys. If you haven't already, subscribe here on YouTube and click the bell so you get notified every time I put a video out. You can find us here on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Rumble, and we put all of our premium content on Patreon. Until next time, remember, it's always better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6.